Dear ladies and gentlemen, imagine standing in the middle of a vast desert where the scorching sun glares down upon the golden sands. There is nothing for miles, yet out of nowhere, a cool breeze finds its way to you. You didn't chase it. You didn't plead for it. You simply stood there, and it arrived. That, my friends, is the power of magnetic presence. This world operates on a simple truth: what is meant for you, what truly belongs to you will come. Not through begging, not by forcefully altering yourself, not by restless tapping on a screen, and certainly not by waiting in agony. The river does not chase the ocean pulls it in. The sun does not seek the sky embraces it. Today we will explore this truth in its deepest form. No begging, no changing, no texting, no waiting. They will come to you. But how? Let's unravel this step by step. Imagine standing in the heart of a vast forest. The trees are towering, ancient, and unshakable. Birds come and go. The wind whispers through the branches. The forest does not move to please anyone, it simply exists, yet life flocks to it. This is how life works. We have been conditioned to believe that if we want something, a person, an opportunity, success, we must chase it with all our might. We are told to run faster, try harder, and push further until our hands bleed from the effort. But look around. In nature, nothing chases. The sun does not run after the dawn. The moon does not beg the night to fall. Rivers do not force their way to the sea. Everything moves with purpose, with flow, with an unshakable knowing that what is meant to happen will happen. Control is a seductive illusion. It gives you the temporary comfort of feeling powerful, but in reality it drains you. How many times have you tried to control the outcome of something, a relationship, a job interview, or even how others perceive you? You strategize, plan, overthink, you send a message, then reread it 10 times, you wait by the phone hoping for a reply. You twist your words hoping to sound perfect, yet despite all the effort, things often slip right through your fingers. Why? Because when you try to force something, you are pushing against the natural order of life. Desperation repels, calmness attracts. Think about it when you hold sand in your palm and squeeze your hand tightly. It slips through your fingers. When you keep your hand open, the sand rests gently in your palm. This is how life works. The tighter you hold on, the faster it escapes you. You don't need to chase what is meant for you. What is meant for you will find its way. This doesn't mean you sit idle. It doesn't mean you refuse to act. It means you align yourself with your highest truth and trust that the right people and opportunities will be drawn to your energy. There is a difference between action and desperation. Action is calm, purposeful, and rooted in confidence. Desperation is chaotic, anxious, and rooted in fear. Look around at the people who seem to have it all, the ones who seem to effortlessly attract success, relationships, and opportunities. Are they chasing? Are they begging? No. They are simply living in alignment with who they are. They walk into a room, and the room takes notice. They don't speak louder, their energy is simply undeniable. You must understand this fundamental truth: what is meant for you will never need to be begged for. When you beg, you are lowering your worth. When you chase, you are admitting that you believe what you desire is above you. But when you stand in your truth, calm, confident, and unbothered, what is meant for you will naturally gravitate towards you. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the kind of person who attracts it. Everything in this life moves towards balance. Nature seeks harmony. The right people, opportunities, and experiences will always come when the time is right. You don't need to control the timing. You don't need to manipulate the outcome. All you need to do is become the version of yourself that no longer feels the need to beg. When you stand in that space whole, complete, and full of presence, you become the magnet. And when you become the magnet, you no longer need to chase anything. It will come to you. Begging is not just a plea, it is a declaration of lack. When you beg, whether for love, attention, validation, or opportunities, you are not simply asking, you are silently telling the world, I am not enough. It may not feel that way on the surface. You may tell yourself that you are just trying harder, just being persistent. But deep down, begging is rooted in the belief that what you want is beyond your worth, and that if you don't plead for it, you might never have it. And what happens when you broadcast this belief to the world? The world reflects it back to you. People may give you pity, but they will rarely give you respect. They may give you breadcrumbs, but they will never offer you the whole loaf. Because begging comes with a price. It costs you your dignity, your energy, and eventually your self-worth. Now think about this. Have you ever seen someone beg for something they truly deserve? No. When a tree stands tall in the forest, it does not beg the sun for light. It does not lower its branches pleading for the rain. It stands rooted in the earth, knowing that when the time is right, the rain will fall, the sun will shine, and the seasons will change. But we as humans often forget this. We believe that the harder we beg, the more likely we are to be noticed. We beg in relationships, hoping someone will finally love us back. We beg in friendships, hoping people will include us. We beg in our careers, hoping that if we work late enough, if we say yes to every task, someone will finally acknowledge our worth. But here is the hard truth. Begging never brings you what you truly want. It may bring temporary comfort, but it never brings lasting value. When you beg, you are operating from a place of fear, the fear of not being chosen, not being loved, not being valued. And fear is not magnetic, it is repulsive. Think of the most confident person you know. They do not beg for attention, they do not plead for recognition. They simply exist fully comfortable in who they are. And because of this, people are drawn to them. Why? Because confidence is magnetic. Self-worth is magnetic. When you know your value, you stop begging for crumbs because you understand that you deserve the whole table. Consider relationships. When you chase someone, constantly calling, texting, or bending over backward to keep them interested, you are not winning their heart, you are exhausting yourself. They may keep you around, but not because they cherish you, because it's convenient. And the more you beg, the more they lose respect for you. The same applies to opportunities. If you are constantly over-explaining your worth in job interviews, constantly saying yes to every demand, or staying in situations where you are undervalued, you are not showing loyalty, you are showing desperation. Employers, just like people, can sense desperation. And desperation makes them doubt your value. This doesn't mean you should stop putting in effort. Effort is not the same as begging. Effort comes from confidence, begging comes from fear. When you put in effort, you are saying, I know my worth, and I am showing up fully. When you beg, you are saying, I need you to validate my worth because I am unsure of it myself. Life doesn't reward those who beg the loudest, it rewards those who stand the tallest. When you operate from a place of self-assurance, you no longer need to beg for love, attention, or success. You attract it naturally because people are drawn to those who know their value. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth when you carry it confidently. Begging may feel like trying harder, but it is actually a way of pushing what you want further away. People don't want what is easily available at the cost of dignity. They want what is rare, what is valuable, what stands strong in its own essence. You don't need to beg for what is meant for you. What is truly meant for you will never require you to sacrifice your self-respect. The moment you stop begging, you stop telling the world you are desperate. And when desperation fades, dignity takes its place. In dignity, you don't need to chase, you attract. In dignity, you don't need to prove, you simply are. And in that state of being, what is meant for you will come not because you pleaded for it, but because it recognized the strength in your calm. Changing yourself for others is one of the greatest betrayals you can commit against your own existence. Yet so many people do it, some without even realizing it. They mold their personalities to fit in, adjust their opinions to avoid conflict, and dilute their truth to gain approval. They believe that if they can become what others want, they will finally be loved, accepted, and valued. But here's the painful truth: when you change who you are to please others, you are not earning love, you are renting it. And rented love is temporary. The version of you that people fall for is not real, it is a mask. Masks eventually crack. When you constantly adjust yourself to meet other people's expectations, you create a fragile version of yourself that needs constant maintenance. You live in fear of being discovered. You worry that if you slip for just a moment, if your real personality shines through, they will leave. That is not connection. That is survival. And survival is exhausting. Look at nature. A tree does not twist itself into unnatural shapes to convince the birds to stay. It does not paint its leaves a different color to fit in with the forest. It stands exactly as it is. Some birds will come and build their nests. Others will fly past. The tree does not mourn those who leave, it continues to stand. The same principle applies to people. If you change who you are just to keep someone in your life, what exactly are you keeping? A relationship built on performance. A friendship that exists only when you agree with everything they say. A workplace where you are valued not for your uniqueness but for how well you conform. The cost of constantly changing for others is heavy. Over time, you lose touch with who you really are. You start to forget your own preferences, your own opinions, and your own boundaries. You become a reflection of what others want, rather than an expression of who you truly are. And the cruel irony is this: even after all that changing, you may still not be enough for them. People's preferences change. Today they want you to be quieter, tomorrow they'll want you to speak up more. Today they like that you are agreeable, tomorrow they'll call you boring. You can spend your entire life shape shifting to fit other people's molds, and they will still find a reason to leave. But the worst part is not that they leave. The worst part is that by the time they go, you are left with a version of yourself that you don't even recognize. Authenticity is powerful because it is rare. In a world where everyone is trying to fit in, being real stands out. When you are unapologetically yourself, the right people will find you not because you adjusted to fit their narrative, but because they resonate with who you genuinely are. They stay not because you tried to keep them, but because they value the unshakable truth of your existence. There is a deep peace in being yourself. When you stop trying to change for others, you no longer have to worry about losing people. You only lose those who never truly saw you in the first place. And when those who are meant for you arrive, you don't have to work to keep them. They stay because they see you, not the performance. Life is too short to spend it as a watered-down version of yourself. You will never run out of people who want you to change, but you will also never run out of people who will love you exactly as you are. The question is, who do you want to find you? Those who love your mask or those who love your truth? The ones who are meant to be in your life will never ask you to change. They will come, not because you became what they wanted, but because you became fully, unapologetically you. There is a quiet power in doing nothing, not the kind of nothing where you sit idle scrolling through distractions, but the kind where you stop forcing, stop begging, and simply allow life to unfold. In a world obsessed with constant action, doing nothing is radical. It is misunderstood as laziness, as passivity, as weakness, but it is none of those things. It is strength in its purest form. When you stop trying to control every outcome, you make space for things to come to you. But this is not the same as giving up. It is not sitting in the dark hoping for a miracle. It is knowing that the things meant for you do not need to be chased. They do not need to be wrestled into existence. They simply need space to arrive. Consider this: the sun does not chase the flowers to bloom. The ocean does not beg the tides to return. Nature moves with rhythm, not force. When you push too hard, when you try to bend life to your will, you create resistance. And resistance is exhausting. The harder you try to hold on to people, the faster they slip away. The more you beg for love, the less it feels like love when you get it. The more you force success, the emptier it feels once you arrive. Why? Because forcing something into your life is a confession. You are telling the universe, I don't trust that this will happen on its own. But the moment you let go, the moment you stop doing and start being, something extraordinary happens. You realize that life doesn't need your constant input. The things meant for you were never running away. They were simply waiting for you to get out of the way. Doing nothing is not about laziness, it is about alignment. When you let go of the need to control, you begin to notice what is already flowing toward you. You become present. You start to see opportunities that you were too busy to notice before. You start to feel the pull of people who value you, not because you demanded their attention, but because your presence alone is enough. But doing nothing is hard. Why? Because it requires trust in yourself, trust in timing, and trust that what is meant for you will not miss you. Most people don't trust. They panic at the first sign of silence. They fill the quiet with noise. They overthink, overtext, overwork, anything to avoid the discomfort of waiting. But waiting is not suffering. It is the birthplace of clarity. When you stop doing, you begin to see what truly matters. You start to separate what is real from what is temporary. You stop clinging to what is leaving and start noticing what is arriving. Think about how many things you have lost because you tried too hard to keep them. How many relationships cracked under the pressure of your need to control? How many opportunities slipped away because you were chasing the wrong ones? How many moments of joy were missed because you were too busy planning the next step? When you do nothing, you are not giving up on life. You are surrendering to it. You are trusting that what is meant for you will find its way, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. There's nothing passive about this kind of surrender. It is the deepest kind of confidence, the kind that says, I am enough as I am. What is meant for me will find me. I don't need to prove my worth by constantly doing. My worth exists in simply being. And when you stop doing, when you stop pushing, you realize something powerful. The things you thought you had to chase were already on their way. They will come to you not because you tried harder, but because you finally allowed them the space to arrive. Change is exhausting when it comes from a place of desperation. The world tells you that if you want to be loved, you must become more lovable. If you want to be successful, you must become someone worth noticing. And so you twist and turn, mold and shape, surf yourself away until you fit in the version you think they want. But here is the truth: anything you gain by changing who you are will require you to keep changing just to keep it. And one day you will wake up tired. Tired of performing, tired of pretending, tired of carrying the weight of a version of yourself that was never real to begin with. Changing for others is not growth, it is abandonment. It is telling yourself who I am is not enough. And the more you believe that, the more you start to disappear. You become a mirror, reflecting back what others want to see, but never showing who you really are. Why do we do this? Why do we feel the need to change ourselves to be accepted? Because deep down we fear that if we show our true selves, we will be rejected. We fear that if we don't bend to fit their expectations, we will be left behind. But here's the irony: the people who love you for who you pretend to be are not really loving you. They are loving the mask. And when you finally get tired of wearing that mask, they will leave. But the people who are meant for you, the opportunities that are truly aligned with you, they will never require you to change. Growth is not about changing who you are, it is about becoming more of who you've always been. Real growth feels like coming home, not running away. Think about it: when you try to change for someone else, you are chasing acceptance. But when you stay true to who you are, the right people will come to you, not because you became who they wanted, but because they recognize who you already are. You cannot build a lasting relationship on a false foundation. You cannot build a meaningful life by constantly editing yourself to fit someone else's expectations. Real love, real success, real happiness, these things are not earned by changing who you are. They are attracted by being who you are. Change for yourself, not for them. Evolve because you want to grow, not because you are afraid of being left behind. The right people will not need you to shrink. The right opportunities will not need you to bend. The things that are meant for you will come to you when you stand firmly in your truth. The moment you stop changing for others, you reclaim your power. You stop begging to be noticed and start radiating the kind of confidence that cannot be ignored. You become magnetic not because you became more likable, but because you became more real. And here is the most beautiful part: when the right people come to you, you won't have to keep changing to keep them. They will stay because they found something real. And when something is real, it doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be seen. When you finally realize that you never had to beg, never had to change, never had to chase, something inside you shifts. There is a profound peace that comes from understanding that what is meant for you will not require you to struggle. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences will flow into your life not because you demanded them, but because you became ready to receive them. But readiness is not about waiting. It is about alignment. It is about standing so deeply in your truth that the things meant for you cannot help but find you. You see, the things you chase are often the things you are least aligned with. When you beg for love, it is because you fear you are not worthy of it. When you change for acceptance, it is because you believe who you are is not enough. When you chase opportunities, it is because you think success is somewhere outside of you. And so you run, you chase, you perform, you exhaust yourself trying to be noticed. But in all that noise, you forget something crucial: what is meant for you doesn't need to be convinced. It doesn't need to be negotiated. It doesn't need to be begged for. It simply needs to be recognized. Think about the sky. It does not beg the stars to shine. It does not try to be more blue or more vast to impress anyone. And yet, every night the stars show up, not because the sky demanded it, but because it created the space for them to appear. This is how life works. The right things will come to you when you stop trying to be more, when you stop begging for validation, and when you start trusting in your own worth. You were never meant to live life on your knees begging for people to see you. You were never meant to break yourself into pieces just to fit into someone else's life. You were never meant to chase what was already looking for you. When you let go of the need to control the outcome, you step into your power. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to chase because what you need comes to you. Not because you sat idle, but because you finally stopped standing in your own way. There is a beautiful irony here. The moment you stop needing something, it often arrives. The moment you stop begging for love, the right people come into your life. The moment you stop changing for acceptance, the right relationships form. The moment you stop chasing success, the right opportunities align. Not because you gave up, but because you became whole. When you no longer need something to complete you, you become magnetic to everything that resonates with who you truly are. And when the right things come to you, they stay. Not because you beg them to, but because they belong with you. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are not here to prove yourself to the world. You are here to live fully, unapologetically, and authentically. And when you live in that truth, you will find that what is meant for you is not something you have to chase, it is something that has been waiting for you to arrive. So stop running. Stop chasing. Stop begging for what is already yours. You were never meant to twist yourself into shapes just to fit into someone else's life. You were never meant to wait by the phone, hoping for validation. You were never meant to dim your light so that others feel more comfortable. The things that are meant for you will find you not because you tried harder, not because you changed who you are, but because you finally stood still long enough for them to arrive. When you know your worth, you stop convincing. When you trust your path, you stop chasing. And when you live fully in your truth, life has no choice but to meet you where you stand. So, let go of the need to force. Let go of the need to prove. Live boldly, live authentically, and trust deeply because what is meant for you will never miss you. And when it comes, you'll realize that you never had to run after it. It was always on its way to you. Texting has become the modern heartbeat of relationships, instant, constant, and overwhelmingly addictive. In this digital age, people no longer wait for letters or conversations, they wait for typing bubbles. A few seconds of silence after a message can feel like hours. A delayed reply can send your mind spiraling with questions. Did they lose interest? Are they ignoring me? Should I send another message? But here's the truth, the urgency you feel to constantly text, to double message, to check and recheck your phone is not about connection, it's about control. Texting has become a desperate attempt to fill the silence, to bridge the distance, to calm the insecurity that whispers if they are not replying, maybe they are leaving. But what if the silence isn't a sign of rejection? What if it's a sign of power, your power? When you constantly reach out, when you keep sending message after message, you are not building a bond, you are begging for attention. And just like in real life, begging in the digital world sends the same message: I don't believe I am enough to be remembered. Consider this: when someone receives a message from a person who never stops texting, what happens? They become desensitized. The texts no longer feel special because they are constant. There is no room for curiosity, no room for anticipation. And when curiosity dies, so does attraction. Think about the people who never seem to chase. They don't text constantly. They don't beg for attention. And yet, when they do send a message, it holds weight. People pay attention. Why? Because they are not texting out of desperation. They are texting out of choice. Their words have value because they don't hand them out like candy. When you overtext, you are not saying, I care. You are saying, I am anxious. And anxiety is contagious. The more anxious you seem, the more the other person feels pressured, overwhelmed, or even repelled. People are naturally drawn to those who are calm and confident. And confidence is not sending 5 messages in a row. Confidence is sending one message and trusting that if the connection is real, they will reply. Silence is powerful. It gives the other person space to think, to wonder, to miss you. When you constantly fill the silence, you rob them of that chance. You are so busy reminding them you exist that they never get the opportunity to feel your absence. And absence is not a bad thing, it is where longing is born. Texting should be a conversation, not a performance. It should be a way to share your energy, not prove your existence. If you feel the need to constantly check your phone, to keep the conversation going at all costs, ask yourself why. Is it really about them? Or is it about soothing your own fear of being forgotten? When someone truly values you, they will not forget you. They will not need 10 reminders that you are still there. The right people will not disappear just because you didn't text for a day. In fact, they will respect you more because of it. Confidence is magnetic, and nothing says confidence like trusting that you don't need to constantly prove your presence. The next time you feel the urge to overtext, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, am I sending this because I have something meaningful to say, or because I'm afraid of being left behind? If it's fear, let it go. Let them wonder. Let them miss you. Let the silence speak. Because those who are meant to stay will come back, not because you kept reminding them, but because they chose to. Waiting is one of the most agonizing forms of self-torture we willingly put ourselves through. It is not the act of patience that hurts, it is the anxiety that creeps in when patience turns into obsession. You wait for a message, constantly checking your phone. You wait for a call, jumping at every vibration. You wait for an opportunity for someone to notice you, for life to finally hand you what you believe you deserve. But here's the truth: waiting is not noble. It is not romantic. It is not a sign of loyalty. In most cases, it is a slow surrender of your power. When you wait, you are putting your happiness, your peace of mind, and your sense of self-worth into the hands of someone or something else. You are saying, my joy depends on whether or not they respond. My peace depends on whether or not this opportunity comes. And when your happiness is in someone else's hands, you are no longer living, you are merely existing. Life does not wait for you to be noticed. It does not pause because you are sitting by the phone or refreshing your inbox. While you are waiting for life to happen, life is already happening. Waiting makes time feel heavy. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like days. Why? Because when you focus so intensely on the future, you disconnect from the present. You miss the sunset outside your window. You miss the laughter of the people around you. You miss the opportunities that are quietly knocking on your door because you are too busy staring at the wrong one. Think of water flowing down a river. It doesn't stop because one rock is in the way. It doesn't wait for the rock to move. It flows around it. It finds another path. And eventually it reaches the ocean, not because it waited, but because it kept moving. This is how life works. The things you are waiting for are not the destination, they are simply one possible path. If the path is blocked, why wait for it to clear when there are so many others to explore? Waiting is not loyalty, it is stagnation. And stagnation is not what you were built for. When you stop waiting, you start living. You stop putting your life on hold for people who may never show up. You stop delaying your happiness until a certain opportunity arrives. You begin to realize that you are not defined by what you are waiting for, you are defined by what you do while you wait. When you live fully in the present, the waiting no longer feels like waiting. It feels like living. You are no longer staring at the clock. You are creating moments that matter. And here's the irony: the moment you stop waiting for what you want, it often finds its way to you. Not because you needed it to be whole, but because wholeness is magnetic. Life is happening right now. The person you are waiting for may never call. The opportunity you are hoping for may never come. But the sunset outside your window, it's happening. The laughter of the people around you, it's happening. The potential for joy in this moment, it's happening. Waiting is a trap. Living is the escape. When you stop waiting, you realize that life never owed you anything in the future, it was offering you everything in the present. They will come to you not because you waited, not because you begged, and certainly not because you changed who you are. They will come because something in you resonates with something in them. But here's the secret: they cannot find you if you are not truly yourself. We live in a world where everyone is trying to be seen. Social media is flooded with highlights, curated smiles, and endless noise. People shout louder, post more, and try harder, all in the hopes that someone somewhere will notice them. But attention is not connection. Being seen is not the same as being valued. The loudest person in the room may grab everyone's eyes, but how many hearts do they actually touch? The things that are meant for you are not hiding from you. They are simply waiting for you to show up as your authentic self. When you are trying to be someone else, you are standing in the wrong place. How can what is meant for you find you if you are not where you're supposed to be? Imagine a lighthouse trying to dim its light because it wants to blend in with the stars. It forgets its purpose. It forgets that ships are looking for its beam, not the faint twinkle of a distant star. When you try to blend in, you do the same thing. You dim your light to match the crowd. And while you're busy trying to fit in, the things that are meant for you sail right past, not because they ignored you, but because they couldn't find you. You don't need to convince the right people to stay. You don't need to chase the right opportunities. You don't need to shout over the noise. You just need to be so deeply rooted in who you are that those who are meant to find you cannot help but notice. There is something magnetic about authenticity. People can feel it. They may not be able to put it into words, but they sense it when they are in the presence of someone who is unapologetically real. And here's the best part: when someone is drawn to the real you never have to worry about losing them. Why? Because they didn't fall for a performance, they connected with your truth. But this doesn't mean you should sit back and do nothing. There is a difference between coming to you and falling into your lap. Life will bring the right people and opportunities into your orbit, but you must be ready to receive them. You must become the kind of person who is open, present, and whole, not desperate for validation, but confident in your own worth. The right people will not come to you because you tried harder, they will come because you became more yourself. The right opportunities will not come to you because you begged for them, they will come because you built yourself into the kind of person who naturally attracts those opportunities. You are not a hunter, you are a magnet. You don't need to run after the things that are meant for you. You simply need to become the version of yourself that those things cannot resist. The kind of person who radiates calmness, self-assurance, and purpose. The kind of person who is so rooted in their own truth that they are impossible to ignore. And when you stand in that place, you will realize something profound. You never had to go looking for what was meant for you. It was always looking for you. It just needed you to show up. When you finally stop chasing, the entire rhythm of life begins to shift. There is a profound power in stepping back, in letting go of the frantic need to control outcomes, people, and opportunities. But letting go is not the same as giving up. It is the realization that what is meant for you will never require you to exhaust yourself. The world teaches you to hustle harder, to run faster, to do more. Don't stop, they say. Keep pushing. If you don't chase it, someone else will. But what they don't tell you is this: the more you chase, the further it runs. Desperation is not a magnet. It is a repellent. When you are constantly reaching, constantly grasping, you are sending one loud message to the universe: I don't believe I can have this unless I fight for it. Why is it that the things you want the most seem to slip through your fingers? Why is it that the people you chase never stay? It's because chasing creates imbalance. The more you push, the more they pull away. The more you reach, the more they retreat. But when you stop chasing, something magical happens. You shift from desperation to calmness. You stop begging the world to notice you and start trusting that the right people and opportunities will find you. Not because you sat idle, but because you became the kind of person they were looking for. Consider the difference between a river and a storm. A storm is loud, chaotic, and overwhelming. It forces its way into every space, demanding to be noticed. But once it passes, all that is left is destruction. A river, on the other hand, flows calmly. It moves with purpose but without force. And yet, over time, it carves through mountains. Its power is quiet but undeniable. When you chase, you are the storm, overwhelming, exhausting, and short-lived. When you stop chasing, you become the river, steady, calm, and powerful enough to shape the world around you. Stopping the chase doesn't mean you stop putting in effort. It means you change the energy behind that effort. Instead of acting out of fear, you act out of confidence. Instead of running after people who barely notice you, you walk in your own truth. You understand that those who are meant to walk beside you will match your pace, not because you begged them to, but because they chose to. Think of the relationships in your life. The more you chase someone who is pulling away, the more they pull. It's not because they don't care, it's because chasing makes them feel trapped. Nobody wants to be caught. People want to be chosen, and choosing only happens when there is space to make a decision. The same applies to opportunities. When you chase every job, every promotion, every accolade, you are telling the world that you don't trust your own worth. You are saying, I need this to prove that I am enough. But when you stop chasing and start focusing on becoming the best version of yourself, the right opportunities come to you. Not because you forced them, but because you attracted them. The moment you stop running, you realize something extraordinary. Nothing was running away from you. You were the one creating the distance. You were the one turning every interaction into a race. When you let go of the chase, you reclaim your power. You step out of the storm and into the calm. You stop scattering your energy in 100 different directions and start focusing it inward. And when your energy is calm, confident, and steady, the world notices. The right people will not need to be chased. The right opportunities will not need to be forced. They will come to you, not because you demanded them, but because you finally stopped demanding and started becoming.